The year was 2347, and humanity had finally reached the stars. 12 colony worlds carried the human flag across the darkness of space. But compared to the ancient empires that ruled the galaxy, humans were still children taking their first steps. Captain Park Suho stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Edge and watched the alien world grow larger in the view screen. Ascendris Prime, the capital of the Valorian hegemony, glowed like a jewel against the black void. The Valorians had ruled 3 spiral arms of the galaxy for 40,000 years. They had conquered 2,000 species. And now, they wanted to meet humanity. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Dr. Kim Yuna, the ship's lead language expert. She had spent 3 years learning Valorian speech patterns from the few transmissions Earth had captured. Her work had made this mission possible. "Beautiful and dangerous," Suho replied. "We know almost nothing about them." Ambassador Lee Mira joined them at the viewport. She was Earth's first official representative to an alien empire, chosen for her sharp mind and calm presence. "Then we will learn," she said. "That is why we are here." The delegation consisted of 200 humans. Scientists, diplomats, translators, and security officers. Among them were 87 women who held positions of leadership and expertise. Dr. Kim Yuna led the language team. Ambassador Lee Mira led the entire mission. Colonel Baek Soyeon commanded the security forces. This was normal for humanity. This was how Earth worked. They did not know that this simple fact would nearly destroy them. The Valorians welcomed them with great ceremony. High Prelate Torvax, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, greeted them in the Grand Hall of Unity. His voice was deep, and his words were kind. He spoke of friendship between species. He spoke of trade and cooperation. He spoke of a bright future. Then Dr. Kim Yuna stepped forward to present a gift from Earth. She spoke directly to High Prelate Torvax, thanking him for his welcome in his own language. The room went silent. Torvax stared at her with his 6 eyes. His gray skin turned pale. The other Valorians in the hall stepped backward, their faces twisted with disgust and horror. "What is this?" Torvax demanded, his voice now cold. "Why does this female speak? Why does it stand among males as an equal?" Captain Suho felt ice form in his stomach. "Dr. Kim is our language expert. She means no offense." "No offense?" Torvax pointed at Yuna with a shaking finger. "This is corruption. This is disease. Females do not speak in the presence of males. Females do not hold positions. Females do not think." He looked at the human delegation with new eyes. Counting. "You have brought females here in roles of authority? This is a crime against the natural order." Ambassador Lee Mira stepped forward. "High Prelate, I am the leader of this delegation. On Earth, women and men are equal. We share leadership. We share responsibility. This is our way." The horror on Torvax's face deepened. "A female leads? A female speaks for your species?" He turned to his guards. "Seize them. All of them. Thanks for watching. Thank you today. We conducive. R. and far." What happened next was chaos. The Valorian guards moved fast, their 4 arms grabbing and striking. The human security team tried to fight, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Captain Suho saw Colonel Baek Soyeon take down 3 aliens before she was hit from behind and fell. Within minutes, all 200 humans were in chains. The Valorians separated them. The men were taken to one prison block. The women were taken somewhere else. Suho screamed as he watched Dr. Kim Yuna and Ambassador Lee Mira dragged away, their faces bloody but defiant. "What will you do to them?" Suho demanded. High Prelate Torvax looked at him with something like pity. "Your females have committed a grave crime. They have acted as thinking beings when they are not. They have spoken as equals when they are property. There is only one punishment for such corruption." He paused. They will hang. All 87 of them. In public. As a lesson to the galaxy. The word hit Suho like a physical blow. Hang. Public execution. For the crime of being equal. You cannot do this, he said. Earth will not allow this. Torvax laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of an adult watching a child threaten him. Earth? Your tiny species with your 12 worlds? The hegemony has ruled for 40,000 years. We have crushed 2,000 species. What will Earth do? Captain Suho had no answer. What could Earth do? In the communications room of the Horizon's Edge, one loyal crew member had avoided capture. Ensign Cha Yeren had hidden when the guards came. Now she worked desperately. Her fingers flying over the controls. She had to send a message. She had to tell Earth what had happened. The signal went out just before Valorian soldiers found her. The last image in the transmission showed the central plaza of Ascendris Prime. Workers were building something tall and wooden in the square. Gallows. 87 gallows, standing in rows like a forest of death. In the foreground, 2 women walked in chains. Dr. Kim Yuna. Her face bruised but her eyes burning with anger. Ambassador Lee Mira. Limping, but walking with her head high. Behind them, more human women. All walking toward their execution. On Earth, the transmission arrived 6 hours later. It played on every screen. In homes and offices, in schools and hospitals, in government buildings and military bases. 8 billion humans watched in silence as the message repeated. They saw the gallows. They saw the chains. They saw their daughters and sisters and mothers and friends walking toward death because they had dared to be equal. The silence lasted for 1 full minute. Then the silence broke. In military bases across Earth and 12 colony worlds, soldiers stood from their seats. Pilots ran to their ships. Commanders opened emergency channels. There were no orders yet. There did not need to be. Every human knew what had to happen. The Valorians had taken human women. The Valorians planned to kill them for the crime of being people. The Valorians had made a mistake that would cost them everything. President Yoon Tae-hee watched the transmission alone in her office. When it ended, she pressed the button that connected her to every leader on Earth. Emergency council session, she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. Now, we have a war to start. The United Earth Council had existed for 200 years. In all that time, it had never seen a unanimous vote. There was always someone who disagreed. Someone who wanted more debate. Someone who said they needed more time. Not today. President Yoon Tae-hee stood before the council and played the transmission one more time. The gallows. The chains. The women walking to their death. When it ended, she spoke only 4 words. Bring them home. Every hand in the chamber rose. Every single one. Old enemies, who had argued for decades, looked at each other and nodded. Political rivals who had never agreed on anything sat side by side with the same fire in their eyes. The vote for war was unanimous. Within hours, the orders went out to every military base on Earth and across the 12 colonies. Admiral Cho Ji-won, Supreme Commander of the United Earth Fleet, watched the reports coming in from her command center. She was 62 years old and had spent her whole life training for battles she hoped would never come. Now the battle had come, and she was ready. How many ships can we launch in 48 hours? She asked. Her aide checked the numbers. 314 combat vessels, Admiral. Another 23 are still under construction. Finish them. I want every ship that can fly. Admiral, some of those ships are missing weapons. Some don't have full crews. Cho Ji-won turned to face him. Then arm them with whatever we have. And I promise you, we will not lack for volunteers. She was right. Within hours, millions of people were trying to join the military. Young and old. Men and women. People who had never held a weapon wanted to learn. People who had retired years ago came back and asked for assignments. Civilian transport ships offered to be converted into warships. Humanity had never united like this. Not in all its long and bloody history. General Baek Hana was given command of the ground forces. She was 50 years old, with gray in her hair and scars on her hands from a lifetime of service. When she received the assignment, she did not celebrate. She simply nodded and said, "I will bring them back, or I will die trying." She meant every word. In a secret facility beneath the mountains of Korea, Dr. Shin Do-hun worked without sleep. He was the chief scientist of the Prometheus Division, a program so classified that only 12 people on Earth knew it existed. For 30 years, his team had developed weapons that humanity hoped would never be needed. Now they were needed. "The antimatter warheads are ready," he reported to Admiral Cho. 500 of them. Each one can destroy a city. What else? Quantum disruption fields. They tear apart anything inside them at the atomic level. Ships, stations, people. Everything becomes dust. Admiral Cho nodded slowly. "And the Erebus protocol?" Dr. Shin was quiet for a long moment. "Erebus is ready. But Admiral, I must warn you. It is not a weapon. It is an extinction event. If we use it, we cannot undo what it does." "What does it do?" "It makes stars go dark. The reaction spreads through a star's core and stops the fusion process. Within days, the star dies. Everything in that system dies with it." Admiral Cho closed her eyes. She was a soldier, not a monster. She did not want to kill billions. But she thought of the transmission. She thought of Dr. Kim Yuna's bloody face. She thought of Ambassador Lee Mira walking toward the gallows with her head held high. "Keep Erebus ready," she said. "I pray we never use it. But if they force us, we will." The fleet launched on schedule. 314 warships rose from shipyards across human space. They gathered at the edge of the solar system, forming the largest battle fleet humanity had ever assembled. It was tiny compared to the Valorian hegemony's millions of ships. Admiral Cho did not care. Before crossing into enemy territory, she recorded a message and broadcast it on every frequency. The Valorians would hear it. The entire galaxy would hear it. "This is Admiral Cho Ji-won of the United Earth Fleet. I speak to the Valorian hegemony and to all species who are listening." Her voice was calm and cold. 3 days ago, you took our people. You took our diplomats. You took our scientists. You took 87 women and sentenced them to death for the crime of being equal to men. She paused, letting the words sink in. "You believe you understand humanity. You believe we are young and weak. You believe we will negotiate. You believe we will beg. You believe we will accept what you have done because you are ancient and we are new." Her eyes burned like ice and fire together. "You are wrong. These women are our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our partners, our friends, our leaders, our heroes. They are not property. They are not objects. They are people. And we do not abandon our people. You have given them a death sentence for daring to exist as equals. We give you this promise in return. For every woman you harm, we will burn a world. For every woman you kill, we will destroy a fleet. And if you execute them, we will not stop until the Valorian hegemony exists only in history books, as a warning to anyone who would touch our people again." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than any shout. "You wanted to teach the galaxy that women are worthless. We will teach you what happens when you threaten what we love." Class is now in session. The transmission ended. The fleet crossed the border into Valorian space. On the other side, 17 Valorian border stations detected the incoming ships. The officers laughed at their screens. 300 ships against an empire of millions? This would be easy. Then the quantum disruption fields activated. The laughter died with them. In the space of 10 seconds, 17 stations and 42,000 Valorian soldiers ceased to exist. They did not explode. They did not burn. They simply vanished, torn apart at the atomic level, scattered across the void as clouds of dust. Across the hegemony, alarm signals began to sound. The humans were coming, and they were not coming to negotiate. Warlord Thesic had commanded Valorian armies for 300 years. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had never lost a battle. Now, watching the reports from the front lines, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. How is this possible? He demanded, slamming his 4 fists against the table. They have 300 ships. We have sent 5,000 against them. How are we losing? His officers had no good answers. The problem was simple. Humans did not fight like any species the Valorians had ever conquered. They did not form neat lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They attacked from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished before the Valorians could respond. Lieutenant Kang Minji led the squadron they called the Ghosts. Her 15 small fighters moved through Valorian space like shadows, appearing suddenly to destroy supply lines and communication stations, then disappearing before enemy ships could reach them. They are not soldiers, one Valorian commander complained. They are animals. They have no honor. Minji would have laughed at that. Honor was for people who could afford it. She was fighting for the lives of 87 women. Honor could wait. Her squadron destroyed 47 supply convoys in 3 weeks. Valorian fleets found themselves without fuel, without ammunition, without food. They had millions of ships, but ships need supplies to fight, and Minji kept hunting. On Ascendris Prime, in the prison where the human women were held, Dr. Kim Yuna was not waiting for rescue. She had spent her first days in captivity, learning everything she could. She listened to the guards speak. She watched their routines. She memorized their schedules. The Valorians thought she was broken. They thought all the women were broken. They were wrong. We need weapons, Yuna whispered to Ambassador Lee Mira during their brief time in the exercise yard. Mira nodded slowly. Her leg was injured from the capture, but her mind was sharp. The pipes in the washroom. They are old metal, weak at the joints. I noticed. I can have them loose within 2 days. Do it. And spread the word. When we move together. On the 3rd day of the 2nd week, a guard struck Ambassador Lee Mira across the face for walking too slowly. The other guards laughed. Dr. Kim Yuna gave the signal. Within seconds, 12 human women attacked with metal pipes torn from the walls. The guards had weapons, but they had never expected the prisoners to fight. They had never expected females to resist. They died surprised. The riot lasted 20 minutes before more guards arrived with shock weapons. 15 Valorians were dead. The women were beaten and thrown back into their cells, but they had sent a message. The prisoners were not helpless. The prisoners were not defeated. Far from Ascendris Prime, Warlord Thesic decided he needed to understand his enemy. He ordered a captured human brought before him. Sergeant Oh Junho had been taken during a boarding action. His face was bruised, his ribs were broken, but he stood straight before the alien warlord. I have questions, Thesic said. Answer them, and your death will be quick. Junho laughed. It hurt to laugh, but he did it anyway. Ask your questions. Why do you fight for females? They are property. They exist to serve and breed. Why would your species sacrifice millions for a few dozen of them? Junho stared at the alien with genuine confusion. You really don't understand, do you? Explain it to me. Every one of those women is somebody's everything. Junho spoke slowly, like he was explaining to a child. My commander, Colonel Bake, she has a husband and 2 sons waiting at home. Dr. Kim, her mother calls her every week. Ambassador Lee, she has a daughter who just started university. He leaned forward, ignoring the pain. They are not objects. They are people, and we have 8 billion people back home who love them. Thesic sat in silence for a long moment. Your species would destroy itself? For them? No. My species would destroy you for them. There's a difference. After the human was taken away, Thesic did something he had never done before. He researched an enemy. What he found terrified him. Humans had fought each other constantly throughout their history. World wars that killed millions. Civil wars that tore nations apart. Religious wars that lasted centuries. They had developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet, and they had come close to using them multiple times. They had an entire culture built around conflict. Songs about war. Stories about war. Games about war. They trained their children to fight. They honored their warriors above all others, and the Valorians had given them a reason to unite. "We have made an error," Thesic said to High Prelate Torvax in an urgent communication. "These humans are not like other species. They are not afraid of death. They are not afraid of pain. They have been fighting each other since before they learned to write. And now, we have turned all of that rage toward us." Torvax dismissed his concerns. "They are savages. Our fleet will crush them. Our fleet is being crushed. We have lost 200 ships in 3 weeks. They have lost 12, and they are getting closer every day." 3 days later, human forces captured their first Valorian colony world, a planet called Thessar, home to 8 million Valorians. The hegemony expected humans to slaughter them. That was what the Valorians would have done. Instead, the humans secured the military targets and left civilians alone. They distributed food to the hungry. They treated the wounded, even enemy soldiers, and they freed the Valorian females. For the first time in 40,000 years, Valorian women walked free on Thessar. They spoke without permission. They made choices for themselves. They looked up at the sky with wonder in their eyes. Across the hegemony, slaves heard the stories. Females who had never known freedom began to dream of it. The humans had not just invaded Valorian space. They had invaded Valorian minds. In her cell, Dr. Kim Yuna heard the distant sound of explosions. The guards were panicking, running through the hallways with fear in their movements. She pressed her face against the bars and smiled. "They're coming," she said to the women in the cells around her. "I told you they would come." Ambassador Lee Mira touched the bars of her own cell. "How do you know?" Yuna listened to another explosion. "Closer now." "Because that's what humans do. We come for our own. Always." The human fleet arrived at Ascendris Prime on a day the Valorians would never forget. 200 warships surrounded the capital world, their weapons hot and ready. The Valorians had gathered 1,000 ships to defend their home, but they had seen what human weapons could do. The confidence they once felt was gone. Admiral Cho Ji-wan looked at the planet on her screen. Somewhere down there, 87 human women waited. Some had been captives for 3 months now. She did not know how many were still alive. She intended to find out. "Open a channel to High Prelate Torvax," she ordered. The alien's face appeared on her screen. He looked older than before, tired and scared. "Good. Admiral Cho," he said. "You have come far. Perhaps now we can discuss terms." "Terms?" Cho's voice was ice. "You sentenced our people to death for being women. What terms do you imagine we would accept? The executions have been postponed. Your females are alive. They will remain alive as long as your fleet stays back. Withdraw to the outer system, and we can negotiate their release." Admiral Cho laughed. It was not a happy sound. "You think you are in a position to negotiate? You have lost 400 ships trying to stop us. Your supply lines are destroyed. Half your empire is in chaos because your slaves have started hoping for freedom." She leaned forward. "You have nothing. You are nothing. And you will give us our people, or I will personally ensure that Ascendris Prime becomes the largest grave marker in galactic history." Torvax's face twisted with desperation. "If you attack, we will execute them immediately. Every single one. Then I will turn your world into their memorial, and every world after it, until your species exists only in our history books." She cut the channel. The battle began. Valorian ships rushed to defend their world. Human weapons tore through them with terrible efficiency. The quantum disruption fields created holes in the enemy formation, swallowing ships whole. Antimatter warheads turned cruisers into brief new stars. But the Valorians had numbers on their side. For every ship they lost, 2 more took its place. The human fleet was taking damage now. Ships were dying. Admiral Cho watched the casualty reports and made her decision. 3 destroyers, she said quietly. I need 3 destroyers to create a gap in the orbital defense grid. The gap needs to last exactly 4 minutes. Her aide understood immediately. His face went pale. Admiral, any ships that attempt that will not survive. I know. Ask for volunteers only. She did not have to wait long. 3 destroyer captains answered within seconds. Captain Yu Ji-yeon, of the Defiance. Captain Han Sung-ho, of the Vengeance. Captain Moon Sarah, of the Last Word. They knew they would not come back. They went anyway. The 3 destroyers dove straight into the heart of the Valorian defense grid. They drew fire from every direction, taking hit after hit as they pushed deeper. Their shields failed. Their hulls cracked. Their crews died at their stations. But they kept going. The Defiance exploded first, taking out a Valorian carrier. The Last Word held on longest, its captain steering with her own hands as the ship fell apart around her. When the Last Word finally died, it crashed directly into the main defense station. The explosion created exactly what Admiral Cho needed. A gap. 4 minutes of clear sky. On the surface of Ascendris Prime, Sergeant Oh Junho led 50 soldiers through the chaos. They had dropped from orbit in small pods, landing hard and fast. Half of them were injured from the rough landing. None of them slowed down. Prison complex is 2 kilometers east, Junho said into his communicator. Move fast. We don't have much time. They fought through Valorian security forces with focused violence. Human soldiers did not waste shots. Every bullet found its target. Every explosive hit its mark. They had practiced this mission 100 times in simulation. Now they ran it for real. Inside the prison, Dr. Kim Yuna heard the sounds of battle getting closer. She had been ready for days, waiting for this moment. She turned to the women in nearby cells. Now, she said simply, the uprising began. Pipes that had been slowly loosened over weeks came free. Cell doors that had been carefully weakened broke open. Guards who expected helpless prisoners found themselves facing furious women with weapons in their hands. But Yuna and the others were not the only ones fighting. Across the capital city, Valorian females rose against their masters. They had heard the human broadcasts promising freedom. They had seen what happened on Thessar, where human forces freed the enslaved women. For the first time in their lives, they had hope. And hope, once lit, is very hard to kill. Valorian guards found themselves fighting on 2 fronts. Human soldiers attacked from outside. Rebellious females attacked from within. The prison complex dissolved into chaos. Sergeant Oh Junho's team reached the main cell block in time to see Dr. Kim Yuna standing over a dead guard, a stolen weapon in her hands. Her face was bruised and thin from months of captivity, but her eyes burned with victory. Took you long enough, she said. Junho almost laughed. My apologies, Doctor. Traffic was heavy. Junho are probably. They gathered the surviving women quickly. Some could walk. Some had to be carried. Ambassador Lee Mira was among the injured. Her leg badly damaged from weeks of abuse. But she was alive. The Count? Junho asked, as they prepared to move. Yuna's face fell. 73 alive. 14 did not survive captivity. 14 dead. 14 women who would never go home. Junho closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the mission briefing. Remember why you are here. Remember who you are fighting for. We will mourn them later, he said. Right now, we need to move. The extraction was brutal. They fought through streets filled with panicking Valorians and burning buildings. Human air support came when it could, clearing paths through the chaos. 3 more soldiers died protecting the rescued women. When the transport finally lifted off, Carrying 73 survivors toward the waiting fleet, Sergeant Oh Junho looked down at the burning capital and felt no joy, only exhaustion and a cold satisfaction. They had done it. They had come for their people. Admiral Cho Ji-wan received the message as the transport cleared the atmosphere. All recovered personnel, accounted for. 73, alive. 14 casualties, during captivity. She allowed herself one moment of emotion. Tears ran down her face as she thought of the 14 who would not come home. Then she dried her eyes and gave the order the Valorians would never forget. Burn it. Burn it all. The human fleet unleashed everything it had. Orbital platforms, military bases, government buildings, weapons, factories, everything that had supported the hegemony's power. When the fleet finally withdrew, Ascendris Prime was not destroyed. The civilians were spared. But the machinery of oppression, 40,000 years of cruel tradition, lay in ashes. The message was clear. This is what happens when you touch our people. 1 year had passed since the rescue at Ascendris Prime. The Valorian hegemony, which had ruled for 40,000 years, existed no more. Not because humanity had conquered it. Humans did not want an empire. They wanted something else. They wanted change. The hegemony had collapsed from within. When human forces freed the females on conquered worlds, when they showed that another way was possible, the foundation of Valorian society cracked. Slaves who had never dreamed of freedom suddenly demanded it. Males who had always believed females were property saw the truth in human faces. The revolution spread faster than any fleet could travel. Now, a new galactic council was forming. Representatives from dozens of species gathered on a neutral station to discuss the future. For the first time in galactic history, many of those representatives were female. Dr. Kim Yuna stood before them as Earth's new ambassador. She had spent months recovering from her captivity. The scars on her body would fade with time. The scars on her mind would take longer. But she had insisted on returning to work. She had a message to deliver. 1 year ago, she began. I stood in chains on Ascendris Prime. I was sentenced to death because I dared to speak, because I dared to think, because I dared to exist as an equal. The chamber was silent. Every being in the room was listening. The Valorians believed that half of any species is worth less than the other half. They believed that females are property. They believed this so deeply that they could not imagine anyone disagreeing. She paused. They were wrong. Humanity taught them that lesson. We taught them with fire and steel and blood. We lost 300,000 soldiers in that war. 300,000 humans who died so that 87 could come home. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of beings from 100 different worlds. Some of you share the Valorian belief. Some of you treat your females as the hegemony did. I can see the fear in your eyes right now. You are wondering if humanity will come for you next. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. The silence grew heavier. We will not. Yuna, let those words settle. We are not conquerors. We are not crusaders. We did not destroy the hegemony because we wanted to rule the galaxy. We destroyed it because it took our people. But understand this clearly. If you take humans, if you harm humans, if you treat human lives as worthless, we will come for you. It does not matter how powerful you are. It does not matter how old your civilization is. It does not matter how many ships you have. Thanks for watching. I'm like. Also, she stepped forward, her voice dropping to something almost gentle. Every human matters to us. Every single one. Man or woman. Old or young. Strong or weak. We do not leave our people behind. We do not abandon our own. That is who we are. On Earth, a memorial ceremony was taking place. President Yoon Tae-hee stood before a wall of names. 312,847 names carved in stone. every human who had died in the war. Soldiers and sailors, pilots and engineers, doctors and technicians. And at the center, in letters of gold, the names of the 14 women who did not survive captivity. They died because someone believed they were worthless, the president said to the crowd. They died because an empire thought that women were property, not people. They died because hatred and ignorance have existed since the beginning of time. She touched the cold stone with her fingers. Let this memorial stand as our answer. Let it stand forever as a promise to the galaxy. Touch one of us, and you face all of us. Hurt one of us, and feel the wrath of all of us. We are humanity. We are 8 billion strong, and we protect our own. Far from Earth, on a trading station at the edge of explored space, a human cargo ship docked for supplies. The captain was a woman named Baek So-yeon. She had served in the war, flying supply runs under fire. Now she carried goods between worlds, building the peace that so many had died to create. A local merchant, a being with purple skin and too many eyes, approached her cautiously. "You are human?" the merchant asked. So-yeon nodded. "I am. I have heard stories. About your species. About what you did to the hegemony." The merchant's voice was low, almost afraid. "Is it true you destroyed an empire over a few dozen females?" So-yeon smiled. It was a warm smile, but there was steel beneath it. "Not over females," she corrected gently. "Over people. The Valorians made a mistake. They saw humans and thought they understood us. They saw our women and thought they were our weakness." She looked out the viewport, where a human warship glided past. It was escorting trading vessels now, protecting the peace. Its weapons were quiet, but they were ready. Our women are not our weakness. They are our doctors and scientists, our leaders and warriors, our mothers and daughters. They are the reason we build. They are the reason we fight. They are the reason we exist. She turned back to the merchant, and her smile grew wider. "If you remember nothing else about humanity, remember this. Every person matters to us. Every single one. And if anyone ever forgets that," she gestured toward the warship outside, "we will be very happy to remind them." The merchant nodded slowly, processing this information. Then, carefully, politely, they excused themselves and went back to their business. So-yeon watched them go and laughed softly. The galaxy was learning. Species that had practiced slavery for millennia were beginning to question their traditions. Empires that had treated females as property were starting to change, not because humans forced them, because they had seen what humans would do, and they did not want to be next. Fear was not the best teacher, but sometimes it was the only one that worked. In her cabin that night, So-yeon looked at a photograph on her wall. It showed a group of women, smiling and laughing. The survivors of Ascendra's Prime, photographed on the day they returned to Earth. Dr. Kim Yuna was in the center, her arm around Ambassador Lee Mira. Both of them looked tired and thin, but their eyes were bright with joy. 73 women had come home, 14 had not. So-yeon touched the photograph gently and whispered into the silence. "We didn't forget. We never will." Outside her window, the stars stretched on forever. Billions of worlds, trillions of beings. An infinite universe, full of possibility and danger. And somewhere in that vastness, a simple truth echoed across the darkness. Humanity protects its own. Humanity never forgets. Humanity never forgives those who harm its people. And humanity always, always comes for its own. The galaxy had learned this lesson in fire and blood. The lesson would not be forgotten. Not ever.